So how's things, man? It's been a little while, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
4th of December we last chatted. I just saw on the Skype ID 6 months, so that's a lot's happened since then, actually.
Well, I think for me it feels a bit like a lot sooner because I've actually listened to it, the interview once or twice afterwards in order to re-edit it.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know. It just seems like you're always in my life for some reason.
I hope that's a good thing.
Of course, yeah. What have you been up to the last 6 months?
Last 6 months, wow. Okay, so pretty much, I think last time we spoke, I was probably sort of wrapping up my Guilo film.
Mm-hmm.
Deep into post-production on Colorblind now, which is my murder mystery whodunit / thriller kind of Agatha Christie meets Vertigo.
What's it about?
Colorblind is about a reluctant private investigator who's hired to track the tail of a suspected suicidal girl. It's your whole kind of PI, mystery drama. So, yeah, you can probably closely compare it to Vertigo. Hitchcock.
A low-budget Hitchcock?
I mean, it's not down and dirty, nasty, low budget. There was a budget, and it's looking pretty good. It looks pretty schmick, but
Nice.
It's been edited by Mark Bacchitis, who's the director of Cult Girls. Do you know that one?
Yeah, of course. That was the one that I believe we talked the most about.
Oh, that's right, because of Sarah Lamberg. Yeah, that's right. So, because what happened was I came on as a casting director on Cult Girls,
Mm-hmm.
and so Mark and I kind of double-teamed, and I said, look, I'll cast if you edit. So it turned out to be it's like a double bill. Cult Girls and Colorblind, they're very similar in the production values, and it'll be a great double feature when that's all said and done, and some of the actors cross-reference as well. And you can see Mark and I, you can see both our styles. It's kind of like our Tarantino Rodriguez Grindhouse double. Do you know what I mean? I kind of finally hit that point where I was like, oh, wow, there's another director in Melbourne that I actually kind of like who also kind of understands me. So it was fun to sort of do that because normally, I would be so, I guess, solo in all the work I do. But I experimented and started branching out a little bit. So like I did a cameo in Dan Armstrong's Sheepdog Massacre. And then I did another bit part in Richard Wollstonecraft's Debt Collector. And so I kind of started, and then I worked obviously on Cult Girls. So, it's a very interesting last 12 months. And it's been fun, man. It's been fun to sort of, see what other people are doing. But, of course, now I've jumped straight back into my next film, which I've just finished shooting, which is called Eye Portrait, which is another thriller.
And what's that about?
Without saying too much, because I've literally just wrapped on production, but it's within the I genre films. So I don't know if you've ever seen I Monster, which was one of the original Jekyll and Hyde movies.
Oh, with Christopher Lee.
Yeah. So basically sort of, you've got your I Robot and your I Portrait and your I this and your I that. There's a whole genre of these films. And funnily enough, there's a couple of guys. Do you know the Noah brothers in Melbourne?
No,
They've done a couple of features. Because I just discovered they're also doing an I, movie at the moment, and I was absolutely flabbergasted because there seems to be a few people that are doing the I reference movie, and I've made mine without knowing any of that. So it must really be in the kind of subconscious of society, I think. So with ours being I Portrait, it's about a girl who, or I should say a woman who, if she concentrates hard enough and puts paint to canvas, she can paint an event from the future. And it's suspicious, so her partner, which is played by myself, asks her to experiment with this idea and see whether, because it's something she used to do as a teenager, she used to paint things and that would come true, as in characters or places or events in her life. So the husband says, well, let's try it. And unwillingly they invite her old friends from the past back into their life, but unfortunately she's got sort of ulterior motives to end their relationship, so it gets kind of nasty.
Okay.
So it's a cool premise. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm sort of concentrating on drama. I'm trying to, I guess, hone my craft in with dialogue and drama, because without that you don't really have your tree trunk to be able to get the branches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I really like that premise.
Thanks. Thank you, bro.
So you finished that one up. And you're working on everything.
Yeah, I'm deep in post sound on Colorblind. I'm hoping to have that finished by the end of the year because that's really my next feature. And then I Portrait, I've got a few pickup shots, but I'll start chipping away at it. But that will be a 2018 movie. Yeah, it's interesting, bro. It's good to always be juggling, different hats and spinning plates. That's what it's all about. And yeah, but the monster movies, right? We want to talk themes, don't we? Dark Universe, Universal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, did you get the chance to see The Mummy?
Of course, absolutely. And, I was quite shocked, and I came out with a lot of things to say. I know you and I were talking online, and I when I first saw the trailer, I thought, hang on, this is Queen of the Damned meets, hide and seek. I just felt like in tune with it. I totally understand it. I'm a bit shocked, though. Like, I was a bit shocked to find that this Dark Universe is going to be a whole string of movies that sort of has Tom Cruise as the centre. I love Tom Cruise. I've grown up with him. I'm a Top Gun baby. But in this case, it's the first time in my life where I'm kind of disagreeing. Like, when I see a poster that's got Cruise in the middle of all these, let's say, movie maniacs, it doesn't really fit for me. Like, if you go back to your Universal monster posters and stuff like that, you'll have all your monsters, but you don't have one of the co-actors or one of the actors playing a dramatic role in amongst that. So I'm having a bit of an issue with that. Does that make sense, bro?
Well, yeah. Well, they haven't tried to do that with Captain Kronos, where they tried to sort of market the hero as opposed to the villain.
Yeah.
And that didn't seem to work because that was a film that didn't make money at the time, as opposed to Dracula or anything with Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing as a central villain.
It's kind of like your DC or your Marvel. Like, you've got all of your characters and you need to sort of market them. As soon as you bring in one of the dramatic actors, it changes the demographic of the whole kind of model. So, and I love Cruise, don't get me wrong. But I've also found with Cruise, and I don't know, tell me what you think of this, but I'm starting to feel like he's not really an action guy, even though he's brilliant at it. I find him a dramatic actor. Like, his best films are still A Few Good Men, Born on the 4th of July, which he should have got the Academy Award for. I guess even Interview with the Vampire. He's really good at drama, and I feel like he's a lot of these Hollywood stars. They're living a whole other world than what we are. They're living in a plastic bubble, and they kind of feel invincible. And it's like, well, the next progression for a dramatic actor is to do action, and I understand that. But I think there's other actors that do action and should just do action. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other ones who do action and just do action nowadays.
Because to me, I miss films like Risky Business. I mean, that was it. That was the best acting he's ever done. The Outsiders. I mean, all the film he's done that he's absolutely killed it. Even The Colour of Money. It's all been drama. And look, Mission Impossible is great, but everyone knows he did Mission Impossible because he couldn't do Bond. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knows that.
Really, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, and it's the same with the Bourne Identity. That's why you've got Matt Damon doing Bourne Identity, because he can't do Bond either. It's that whole thing. There's always been a stigma attached to that. So I don't know. Look, Universal Dark Universe, yeah, bring it on. But I honestly, bro, I was watching The Mummy, getting to the end of it and thinking it started amazingly. It ended a little bit kind of funny, a bit strange, not great. And then I went, oh my God, we've got Dark Universe upon us. So I was kind of shocked. But this is definitely what happens. This is what Universal does. They've been doing it since 1920. They'll regenerate the monsters and they'll come out. I mean, I remember seeing all the 70s stuff, like we were mentioning the Hammer Horror. There was a period where in the late 80s they kind of stopped, and I thought, well, that's it, it's done. And then in mid 90s, you got your Dracula with Francis Ford Coppola's, followed by Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein, and then Nicholson in Wolf. I was like, oh my God. And those films were amazing. 1994, when those films came out, they really were absolutely breathtaking because you'd never seen Universal monster film with such a budget. And I really felt like they nailed it. But going into the new millennium with these types of films, it's interesting because everything's based on CGI now. It'll be more of an epic, I guess, landscape and feel. But I do think that within those realms, though, you lose a lot of the generic horror, because horror, as you and I know, it's down and dirty, it's dark, it's damp, it's creepy. And when you've got a polished Hollywood studio film, it's hard to get that really gritty authenticity of fear, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree. But another thing I want to point out, they tried the Jekyll and Hyde thing in the Gothic vein is the same as what's called Dracula and Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein. There was a film that came out called Mary Riley with Julia Roberts. Do you remember that?
huge fan, but John Malkovich.
Yeah, I love that film.
And Julia Roberts. I'm an epic fan of that. In fact, you hit the nail on the head, because that was one of the kind of big influences for me to do my hide and seek film when I did mine.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I've still got a full-length poster of that somewhere in my cupboard, I think. That's an amazing interpretation, one of the best.
Yeah, everyone used to make... I remember at the time people were making fun of Julia Roberts for doing that.
No,
Irish accent.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was like, when you watch that film, you can actually see that she's actually an amazing actress. Do you know what I mean? Like, if anyone doubts Julia Roberts, just watch Mary Riley. Jesus Christ! After that, you'll be down on your knees. I mean, it's an incredible performance.
It was one of the first films where she got to wield her power.
That's right.
This goes and that doesn't go. Essentially, she was becoming the equivalent of Tom Cruise in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Look, buddy, I really love your film literature. You're definitely on the pulse, and I just take the opportunity to say as well, I'm loving your posts. I see your posts up on Facebook newsfeed, and I just go, wow, you'll remind me of a film that I saw that I loved, that I had forgot. And I really feel that you're on the pulse. I mean, are you watching a lot of films? How many are you watching, like, a day or week, do you reckon?
Not that many anymore. I mean, I got my fix essentially when I was working at the video store. I had depression at the time, and I didn't know it. So I was watching 4 to 5 movies a day.
Fantastic.
And then taking drugs as well. So it's like, so it's not really, it wasn't very healthy. So nowadays I'm kind of catching up on that. But to be fair, I did learn a lot during that period. It's kind of hard not to. I did read a lot in terms of film literature. I just read a lot, and I had a lot of time to do so. And I was also working a bit as a stand-up comic to get out of the house. Actually, that was the only time I would get out of the house aside from the video store. So,
That's what we've got in common. That's why we get along, because, back in the day I did stand-up. I started out doing stand-up. It was one of the first things I did. And, I've managed multiple video store chains, don't you? Did you know that?
You mentioned that last time. I was like, multiple? Wow.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I managed... People don't realise, bro, but I managed about 6 different chains at one, in my lifetime. I mean, I shouldn't say chains, I should say stores, but 6 different companies, businesses. But I didn't realise about you. So that's awesome. So that's why we get along, man, because we've got that appreciation of cinema, and we've watched films. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing how many people I meet these days that are half baked. Oh, I want to get into acting. What's that about? Yeah, I'll give that a try. And I just think, well, what have you watched? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, man. It really is. Anyone these days thinks they can be an actor or a filmmaker. They'll just post it up on Facebook and say, I'm making a movie, and all of a sudden apparently they're a director. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is a professional exercise, but also a self-fulfilling satisfying. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's more about seeing what I can do with these skills rather than letting them go to waste, and sort of meeting people within the film circuit at Monster Fest and all these other film things, and Joy 94.9 as well. It's helped to sort of solidify these interests and skills as well. So it's on one hand it is a professional exercise, but it also has to do with interest as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to The Mummy. Did you enjoy it or not? Unfortunately, I didn't.
You didn't?
No. I was going to say I didn't get from you whether or not you enjoyed it or not.
Look, I'll be honest, I'm thinking for the first 3 quarters, I'd give it a 7 out of 10, but they really lost me in the last quarter. And I think the standout was obviously, the Mummy herself. What an amazing actress. She's phenomenal. And watching Crow as Jekyll and Hyde, I don't know. It was weird. I mean, Russell Crowe obviously is a brilliant actor. You can't sort of diss him. Did I like him as Dr. Jekyll? And I will say Jekyll, because the correct pronunciation is Jekyll. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's because of the what's his face, the famous person who played him on stage in London and also was involved allegedly in the Jack the Ripper case.
Yeah, that's right. That was, I think it was Mansfield.
Mansfield, that's it. Yeah. He pronounced it Jekyll, and ever since then. Yeah.
Well, because in the novel, if you go really hard into the the literature, when he says "G kill," it's as in kill. And I can't remember where I read or learned this. It was probably when I was studying Robert Louis Stevenson's literature. But I think it was "G kill" as in I kill. The tongue is lazy. Over the years, it was Jekyll. It just became quicker and easier to say that.
Sure.
Well, but yeah, look,
J is French for I.
Perfect. So you know what I'm saying. So with Crowe, look, it was great. I think he looks awesome. I think it was a great performance. But when he turned into Hyde, I wasn't quite sold. And I think this is that whole studio thing. The thing is, man, and this, like with CGI, as it progresses, as it always evolves, every time they're making a film, they're still experimenting somewhat. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because they're always trying to nail it, and every time they're trying to nail it, it comes across as they're trying to nail it, but sometimes they don't nail it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I would rather just go back to like some generic, full-blown prosthetics with a little bit of CGI, which we all know Peter Jackson absolutely nailed in Lord of the Rings. It can be done, and then get back to the drama. You know what I mean? And try and make it scary. Because I don't really want to eat popcorn and drink Coke and watch a horror where I kind of come out and then I want to go and get a fucking snow cone. Do you know what I mean? Like, sure. It's, like I want to come out and be like, oh, shit, man. And I want it to affect me for 24 hours and I want to think about it, and that just unfortunately didn't happen,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a film that's done that, like the last film in a cinema that's done that for me. That's a horror film. And to be honest, it's probably Insidious.
All right, yeah. For me, I was going to say probably Wolf Creek gave me a few chills.
Oh, that's even further back, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, and I knew some of the actors in it. So the suspension of disbelief wasn't even like going to be there, but it still managed to work on me. Actually, you'd love this story.
Sure.
When I went and saw Wolf Creek, this is ridiculous. I was in Lilydale. I ended up, this is like a long time ago. I went to a midday session in Churnside Park. I'd never been there. I'd never gone to the cinema there, and I was looking through the thing. I was going to take my mum out for the day, right? And I was like, Mum, do you want to go catch a movie? She's like, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, there's this movie with John Jarratt. And she said, oh, I love John Jarratt. I used to watch him when I was younger. And so she'd seen all this stuff. And I went, oh, well, let's go and see that. So we get into this cinema in bloody Churnside Park, and it's Wolf Creek, and obviously it's not a dramatic film that she's used to. It's full-blown gore. But for some reason, and I love it when this happens, probably only happened to me once or twice in my life, we're the only ones in the cinema, and it was like a daytime session. So we had the whole cinema ourselves, and we watched Wolf Creek, and it scared the crap out of her, and she said she's never been able to look at him again the same way. Do you know what I mean? It was just brilliant.
Yeah, well, I mean that sort of notion of casting against type really worked for Wolf Creek. I wonder how it played internationally.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, we all know Tarantino's a huge fan of John Jarratt, and he would have loved it, and there would have been posses and I guess groups that loved it. But yeah, on a whole, you're right. I know it's hard to say, because the only movie that really, first grabbed the States as far as Australian stuff goes, as far as I'm concerned, was Mad Max 2, and then obviously in America it's called The Road Warrior. And that's because it was almost close to the kind of epic, action stunts and battles that they're used to making in Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the first one, from what I can gather, it was a little bit too dramatic. It was a little bit too cult. It was a little bit too niche. So it goes to show you. And I saw another interview with Stallone, and he was in Britain, and he was saying, look, Britain's great. They've got all these awesome stories and a lot of drama and stuff like that, particularly the films that Michael Caine's come from, but they don't have the action. And what he's trying to say is, that without a studio and the big stunts, you're not gonna reach those kind of heights. But between you and I, that might not necessarily mean that's what I want to make. Do you know what I mean? Or there's a lot of people don't even want to make that, and a lot of people aren't interested in making studio stuff. A lot of people just want to make films, and I'm sure nobody would say no if they were offered those opportunities as well, of course. But I think everyone's different. Everyone's got different tastes.
I'm Madman. That's it. I was trying to think of the other I film, but
what was it?
I Madman. Have you ever seen that?
I remember Madman, which was Madman Mars.
Oh, okay, no.
Explosive. That was an Explosive Palace video. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No. Tell me about that. It seems like it's got an indelible memory on you.
Explosive Palace video VHS cassette. These were the wickedest horrors. They were all produced by Roadshow, which people may not realise is the predecessor to Oh, sorry, no, sorry. I'm thinking of Thorn EMI. Thorn EMI was the predecessor to Roadshow. But no, these I think were Roadshow, and they were called the Palace Explosive Collection. So you had horror films like The Slayer and Beyond and Madman and Humongous, and all those types of movies. And Madman
Humongous on VHS. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, Humongous! Jesus Christ, what a movie!
That was very much like Madman, wasn't it?
Very similar. There was this whole genre of movies that came out where it was kind of like they were spin-offs of Friday the 13th, because you had a group of kids out at some kind of either, resort, farm or island that, in the middle of their holiday got attacked by some creepy guy, and essentially too, bro, that was a big premise for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a group of young guys going out trying to find a holiday house and they end up on a wrong lot. You know what I mean? It's very similar. Which I think just kind of occurred to me then as we were speaking.
It's the Hansel and Gretel type archetype that really plays into it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to point out.
No, Madman Mars. So it's basically, the kids were sitting around a campfire, and if someone whispered, the name Madman Mars, he would appear, and then he obviously he did, and then people started getting whacked, at this campsite. But it was sort of, pitched as this really scary film at the time, but it kind of fell short. It was almost became a bit sort of funny and silly because it was just a bit stupid. So there must have been so many of those films that when I was watching as a teenager that I thought were really gripping, but to a mature adult, they probably just thought it was trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was one scene in Madman. I haven't seen it in probably about 10 years myself, but there was one scene in Mad Men where a woman hides in a fridge. I remember that, like, it's one shot. It was like a dolly shot, just, where the fridge was and where the door was. And she enters and goes into the fridge and hides. And Madman's looking around. And it's a really, really suspenseful moment with just one shot. And
That's the thing, man, because, with these low budgets and stuff like that, they're being forced to be creative. They have to try and find shots that are going to entertain or tell their story or their vision or that moment. And they've only got camera, and they've only got an actor, and maybe they've only got a hallway, and you've got to be really creative about it. And I think that's why some of those shots, like you said, they stay with you. They actually do make an impression. Where if it's the same kind of factory fold, let's like we're talking about the studio stuff, if it's a factory fold image and you go, oh God, I've seen that before. Like how many times you go and see, a Star Wars or a Star Trek and you're like, oh yeah, okay. It's almost like you can see the STEM work, like when you build graphics, what do they call that?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You can almost see the frame. So I was going to say framework. You can see the almost the CGI framework behind the shot, and the suspension of disbelief is just fucking not there.
No,
do you know what I mean? You're not in it,
that being said, the last Star Wars film that I watched, Rogue One, I thought the woman from that was the same woman from Force Awakens. I just didn't even notice the difference. I was like, hang on, she's not behaving in the same way.
Oh, I see, mate. Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, they kind of they'll make one film and go, oh, how are we going to do this character? What about the character from that other film? Yeah, merge that. They're sort of putting it all together, and you get a few films in succession, but they're kind of stolen or borrowed characters from others. Yeah. I'll tell you a classic example here, bro. You'll get what I mean when I say this.
Sure.
Ryan Gosling, right? Now, have you seen Only God Forgives?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the moment when he's in the alley and he says to the girl, give me back the dress, and she's reluctant and he screams her and he goes, give me back that dress. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So if you go and watch the new trailer to Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling,
I've seen it many times.
You'll see. Do you remember the shot where he kind of cracks it and has a little tantrum and goes, and he starts screaming? It's the exact same shot and emotion as what we saw in Only God Forgives. And what I've been noticing, it's very interesting, particularly with Nicholas Winding Refn stuff. When he's made the low budget film that's been successful, Hollywood on the big budget studio replicates it. they make it their own. But if you hadn't seen the indie, you wouldn't know that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's trendsetter.
Absolutely.
And that's why he's making stuff for Gucci.
I keep seeing this a lot. I'm seeing it like more often than not, and I'm like, God, am I the only one seeing this? Is anyone getting this? Like, it's sort of you've really got to know your film to understand this, don't you? You can't. I wouldn't say it's reading into it either. You've really just got to know your stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? But it's interesting.
Well, I'll wrap this up with one last question. Have you seen The Neon Demon, the Nicholas Winding Refn film?
Have I ever? Talking about Mark Bacardis before earlier as well. He's just done a Neon Demon style clip for David Thrussell, who's the guy from Soma, the Inner Cinema, or Snog, the award-winning composer. And I cast that purely because as soon as you said Neon Demon, I said, well, you're speaking my language. So I helped to cast that music video that we just shot. Dude, huge fan. I mean, to see Keanu Reeves pop up, the scene with the cougar, that escaped cougar comes in the hotel room. And really, to be honest, if you've seen my films, it's kind of in the same realm. I mean, we're talking about models in a horror environment. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if you've seen my model behavior or my new one, I Portrait, is also very similar. But it's taking models that are beautiful, that can act, not the models that can't act, but the ones that actually can act, and kind of putting them in these horrific environments. I mean, you would know, working in the video store as well as I do, that the customer's main demographic, or let's say their want and desire, is beauty and blood. It's as simple as that. I mean, I can easily sell a movie that's got a beautiful girl and a lot of blood more so than any other film. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's straight off the bat. To me, that's what the crowd wants. It's the same as The Mummy, bro. It brings us back. Look at her. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She kills. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know SRS Cinema? Do you know those guys that do all the sort of grind exploitation stuff?
No.
Okay, so Ron.
Did they do Wolf Cop? No.
It's that circle of guys. That's exactly right. Sure. They've just done a movie called She Kills, and I thought, he understands. He knows what's going on here. And these sort of movies can be done on any budget. And who was it? Was it Luc Besson, Luc Goddard? Who was the guy that said all you need is a girl and a gun? And you can make a movie.
Oh, it was Jean-Luc Godard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually had a mate in film school that made a film called The Girl and the Gun based on that. And I played the guy with the gun, and then the girl kind of flipped and put the gun on me and all this sort of stuff. It's true, bro. I really think that's, it's nothing sells faster, than a beautiful woman and some blood.
The Argento de Parma formula. Thank you very much, Nathan. I'll talk to you again later.
All right, mate. Good on you. Thanks again, buddy.
This series was produced by Sebastian Mittelman and devised by William Thompson and Sebastian Mittelman. Stay alive till next time.